All right, we got a lot to talk about today. Our regular viewers saying, Ed, what's going on? You said never talk about cola until it actually comes out there, and you are 100% correct. And I've never talked about cola until October. That's when the numbers come out for cola. So any social media people out there, news channels talking about cola before that time is just a bunch of, trying to get clickbait. But this is a very, very, very strange period in U.S. history. And so I'm going to talk about cola and the danger of our future cola. And it just you might not get what you think you need. You might not get what you actually need because of recent developments. So we're going to talk about that. And it looks like as though we finally found one of those lazy young people that are playing video games. They're being kicked off of Medicaid. So there's a story going out there about this lazy young person playing video games, I guess, in their parents' basement that is going to be kicked off of Medicaid. So we'll talk about that as well. Okay, so what are we looking at here? And this is also a live Q&A. Got a bunch of questions already. So if you have any questions about all things Social Security, retirement, disability benefits, survivor benefits, Medicare, Medicaid, make sure you put it in the chat, and I will get to as many as humanly possible. All right, so let's get started here. What we've got basically is the president fired the messenger. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they're the ones that do the job reports, labor statistics. And they came out with a new jobs report, and the president didn't like it, so he decided to fire the commissioner, which he has every right in the world to fire that commissioner. That commissioner is chosen by the president, so if he wants to fire that person, he has every right to fire that person. But the reason he gave to fire that person is just because he didn't like the numbers. It's not as though, he said, well, I looked at the numbers myself and looks like she forgot to carry the one and she didn't, so she doesn't know how to add and subtract and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I fired her. That's not what happened. And I'm going to show you exactly how this just might affect your COLA. So this is also directly related to how much you're going to be getting next year. And it's already going to be hurting because they've already talked about the fact that Medicare Part B premiums are going to be raising quite a bit. It's $185 this year. Hopefully it doesn't get close to $200, but it might be $200 a month next year. And usually a COLA increase kind of makes up a little bit of that. But if our COLAs are not accurate, then that's going to be an issue. So let's listen to the president here about why he fired this commissioner.
I think so. And if you look at before the election, the same kind of thing happened. And I think you'll see some very interesting information come out. But you have to have honest reports. And when you look at those numbers, or when you look at just before the election, and then after the election, they corrected it by 800,000 or 900,000 jobs. Yeah, I would say so.
President, why did you fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics?
Because I think her numbers were wrong. Just like I thought her numbers were wrong before the election. Days before the election, she came out with these beautiful numbers for Kamala. I guess Biden/Kamala. And she came out with these beautiful numbers trying to get somebody else elected. Then right after the election, I think on the 15th, November 15th, she had an $800,000 or $900,000 massive reduction. Said she made a mistake. That woman's numbers are.
Okay, so supposedly we're talking 2024 here, August 2024. This is when they did the revision. The department's estimate for total payroll employment for the period from April 2023 to March 2024 was lowered by 800,000. So this is what he was talking about. This did not happen after the election. It happened before the election. It actually hurt the previous candidates for president. So that is 100% incorrect. All you have to do is Google that, and it shows that revision. And basically what it is, how they do this. And they've been doing it the same way The Bureau of Labor Statistics has been doing this since the 1920s or the 1930s. They sent out these surveys, hundreds of thousands of surveys to businesses, to individuals, and they ask about hiring. Are you hiring? Are you employed? All that kind of stuff. And then they get those surveys back. This last time they got 59.5% of those back on time. But they have to report these things quickly. So for July, they get everything back and they report them basically, on August 1st, right? And they didn't get all these back yet. So what happens is once they start, they leave the window open for a couple of months. So those surveys they sent out 1 month, they kind of leave it open for a couple of months for, those to start trickle in. And then when they receive more, that's when they go back there and revise. Okay, we received like 80,000 out of the 100,000 we sent, and out of those 60, 70, 80,000 we received, here's what it looks like. Oh, since then, a couple of months ago, we received a bunch more back, and now we're going to go ahead and revise it. So that's what they do. They have a nice little between accuracy and speed. Everybody wants the numbers as quickly as possible, so they try to give those numbers as quickly as possible, but that doesn't make it very accurate. And that's why they revise those things to make it even more accurate. And that's the issue that the president had, is he just didn't like the numbers. And not as though it wasn't calculated correctly, because all of those numbers are calculated exactly the same way for decades. They've been sending out these surveys since the 1950s or so. The whole design of this system started in the 1920s and 1930s. Okay, so when you fire this person, you're going to have to replace this person. And I'm not sure which Fox News host is going to be put into this position, but I guarantee they're not going to come up with the same numbers. They're going to have to play around with the numbers and give the president a number that he likes. And that is the same exact person who also does COLA. And how exactly does that happen? I'm going to give you a quick little one-over on COLA, how your COLA is calculated. So the same exact person, the person at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, determines how much you're going to get from COLA every single year. And this system has been around since the 1970s. It's been calculated exactly the same way since the 1970s. And it's based on a basket of goods. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they buy a basket of goods, and I'll show you some of the stuff in the basket of goods here. And then they buy it, and this is why I always say, don't talk about COLA until it actually comes out, because the basket of goods they buy is in the third quarter of the previous year. So it's September 2024, they buy a basket of goods. And then in September of this year, 2025, they buy another basket of goods, the same exact basket of goods, and they say, oh, okay, from this time to this time, here's how much it increased. And so if it increases 3%, you get a 3% COLA. If it increases 8.7%, like it did a few years ago, then you get an 8.7%. So it's based on that inflation. And presidents hate when grocery prices go up. When all those prices go up, presidents do not like inflation. People costing, more money to go out there and do stuff. So those type of numbers, any president just doesn't like inflation to go up, prices to go up. So is the new person who does these calculations, are they going to, say, hey, even though it was 8.7, but, we kind of figured, we kind of put our thumb on the scale a little bit, and then it was 1%. So if you should have gotten an 8.7% COLA, but instead you just might get a 1% because thumb is on the scale. And what is the basket of goods? So it's basically food and beverages, milk, bread. So they buy bread, they buy chicken, they look at the prices of housing, utilities, gas, electricity, gasoline, public transport, cable TV, streaming services, pets, education, tuition, personal care, haircuts, toiletries, legal services, and that's what they do. That's the basket of goods they buy each year, and then they look at see how much the prices go up. One of the things that regular viewers to my channel know that I don't agree with the way they calculate it. They've calculated it the same way since the 1970s, as they use the CPI-W. And the W part, so the Consumer Price Index W, means for regular workers. What they should use, what I would argue, is they should use what's called the CPI-R, which means for retirees, or excuse me, elderly, E. Some people call it the R, but anyway, E for elderly. And that weights more in medical coverage. So doctor visits. So once you start getting elderly, older, you go to the doctor more medical costs. So if they actually did it on the CPI-E instead of the CPI-W, then our COLAs would be a little bit more, which I think they should, but they've been using in the W since the 1970s. So it's going to need to be a congressional, and this is by Congress. This is not the Bureau of Labor Statistics saying, oh, I'm going to calculate it based on this. I'm going to calculate it. No, these are congressional mandates. Congress said in the early 1970s, okay, COLA. Up until the early 1970s, Congress, every year, they had to debate how much your COLA would be. And that's a nightmare, right? Politicians, figuring out that every year they can barely add themselves sometimes. So they said, okay, we need to stop doing this. Let's just give it over to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and they'll do this basket of goods, and they'll come up with inflation, and that way we don't have to play political football with the COLA every year. So that's exactly what they did, and it's been like that since the 1970s. So it's not anything that the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the commissioner, whoever, you can't fire that person and change the policy, but I guess you can. So we shall see. So I don't know whether the COLA is going to be affected here, but the person who does the COLA is going to want to please the president. And that's the reason they're put in this particular position. Okay. Another story I want to talk about. So if you got any questions on that, if you disagree with me, remember you go onto my website, mygovexpert.com. Let me pop it up here. You go into my website, and on the bottom left there is a little icon where you can push and record a video. And I've got a couple of videos today if people have questions, but you can record a video and dispute, whatever you want. And you can also ask a question about anything retirement, disability. I've got a couple of questions today that I'll get into. All right, so there's another story out there about Medicaid and the big, beautiful bill. And we have found someone who has been playing video games, I guess, in this young lady's basement, or maybe not. So let's listen to why close to $1 trillion was cut from Medicaid.
No one has talked about cutting one benefit in Medicaid to anyone who's duly owed. What we've talked about is returning work requirements. So, for example, you don't have able-bodied young men on a program that's designed for single mothers and the elderly and disabled. They're draining resources from people who are actually do that. So if you clean that up and shore it up, you save a lot of money and you return the dignity of work to young men who need to be out working instead of playing video games all day.
Okay, so we found one of those.
Now, this afternoon that the nursing home that my dad is in is ending their Medicaid contracts. And he has until September 15th to figure out what to do. And so I've just been down the rabbit hole to try to figure out why would a nursing home end their Medicaid contracts, because even though they lose money per resident, the majority of the beds are filled with Medicaid long-term patients. So why would you end those contracts? You have to be in financial distress.
There you go. I think she answered her own question there, that her senior parent, obviously not someone playing in her video games in her basement, but that's, it's going to be only the start of the casualties. So there's nursing homes throughout the country that 2/3 of people in nursing homes use Medicaid, and they're barely scraping by. The nursing homes barely have enough to keep those people in there, and pay the rent and employees and all the rest of it. But the states have come up with a kind of an interesting idea to kind of these provider taxes. And so they've been able to make it work up until now. But the big, beautiful bill cut $1 trillion off there. And they've also made it illegal for states to do that provider tax type thing that they were kind of working working the system a little bit. So even though the big, beautiful bill, the Medicaid, the work requirements is not going to start for a while, You've got all these nursing homes throughout the country that see their financial situation, and they see all of the people, 2/3 of their residents in their nursing homes are on Medicaid. And they're going to say this, yeah, we're going to have cuts in the future. And so I hate to put it this way, but I know nursing homes throughout the country say, hey, we have to unload these Medicare patients. We have to get rid of them. There's going to be a massive outflux of people from nursing homes. Every nursing home in the country is going to try to get rid of their Medicaid patients, and we have to be one of the first ones to just start going out there. So this lady is in Tennessee, and she has to figure out what she's going to do with her father. And there's some states, Tennessee included, which has filial responsibility laws. And those are laws that said, hey, if you have a parent that's not able to take care of themselves and you've got a little bit of money, these states can actually go after you. There's about 26 to 30 states or so: Alaska, Arkansas, Massachusetts, Connecticut, California, North Dakota, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Dakota, Tennessee, Utah. Utah, I think, went back and forth on that one. Nevada, Montana, Mississippi, Massachusetts, Louisiana. So they can come after kids and make them pay for that health care, make them pay for those facilities. And so there's a lot of people out there that are just not going to be able to do that. And these nursing homes also made kind of a deal in this big, beautiful bill that this is kind of a shocking title. Nursing homes may start to sedating your elderly parents and eventually you. Because they don't have enough workers. So there's going to be these nursing homes throughout the country that are going to be hurting, so they're going to cut back on staffing. And that was supposed to be a no-no, you can't do that. Under the previous administration, they said, hey, you're going to have minimum levels of nursing staff per resident. And the big, beautiful bill decided, no, we're not going to have that. So if you want to have one person, one nurse or one nurse practitioner and 20 or 30 patients, then you go for it. So they basically stopped that and said, okay, yeah, maybe in the future they put a 10-year hiatus on that law. So these nursing facilities can, have no regulations on how many people they can have in terms of staffing ratios. So that's going to be very, very difficult. And people say, well, there's also a provision in the big, beautiful bill that there's $50 billion that politicians can use for rural hospitals and different things. But I don't know how often you've read politics in America, but yeah, there are a bunch of, private equity firms that own hundreds of hospitals and hundreds of nursing homes, and they're going to get first choice of that $50 billion. And a lot of these private equity, they go in there, they just flip, they buy nursing homes, chains of nursing homes, hospitals. They go in there and just gut it, sell the real estate, and I'm sure they'll get they're part of that $50 billion, and then they essentially just leave town. That's happened throughout the country. So it's unfortunate. So if you agree with all this, then, you agree with the big, beautiful bill and just keep on keeping on. If you don't, then you definitely need to reach out to your politicians and say, hey, this is completely unacceptable. Reach out to your governors. They're the ones that are kind of left this because the federal government the politicians in Washington have, pretty much done it. They've passed a big, beautiful bill. They think it's a beautiful thing, but I don't think your politicians statewide necessarily include that. So, all right. So let's get into some questions here on all things Social Security. Let's see what we got here. Oh, okay. I was on Ticket to Work program. I'm 56. I went off it as I cannot afford school. When they asked me to do a CDR and can I get back to Ticket to Work, then can afford it again. Okay. So you were receiving SSDI, SSI, whatever the case may be, and you decided to see if you can go back to work. It's a beautiful thing. Social Security, Congress, everybody, if you're able to try to go back to work, that's why there's so many work incentives to help you try to go back to work. So it's a beautiful thing. So you tried it. For whatever reason, it didn't work out or go back to school or whatever. So Ticket to Work. that is a organization the Social Security Administration contracts with to help you do that. Come up with a plan for self-sufficiency, going to school and, work and all the rest of it. But if you went off of it while you're on Ticket to Work, yeah, you don't get CDRs, the continuing disability reviews. Once you go off of it, then you're up for CDRs again. But don't worry about CDRs. People always freak out about CDRs. I'm coming up with part of my new platform. I'm coming up with it. We're going to help you a little bit more on the CDRs, quite a bit more actually. But don't freak out on the CDRs. If you have the packet, if you've already received the packet in the mail, just go into my website, click on disability there, and then click down on continuing reviews. And it's got tons and tons of questions. Any question possibly anybody would want to ask about a CDR is there. But if you don't have the CDR package in your hand right now, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just go onto my website, check out, what you should kind of prepare in case you get it, but don't worry about it until you actually get it, because it's a budgeting issue. It's not necessarily you, it's a budgeting issue. So, and if you want to get back to Ticket to Work, it depends on your age and everything. I'd call them up and say, hey, remember me? I had it, but for whatever reason I stopped it and I'd like to try it again. Yeah, I would definitely try it. I think COLA should not impact SNAP. Your rent for two things, it should not be impacted. Well, COLA impacts everything. COLA impacts how much money you got coming in. So again, 8.7%. And I always say that, COLA is a result of inflation. And people say, oh, I got 8%, from this president. No, you didn't get anything from that particular president. I don't care who it was. Was it a Biden? It was Trump. It was, Obama. That president didn't give you that COLA. That COLA was it's based on inflation. I mean, if that particular president, put in like something like tariffs, which increased inflation, then I guess, yeah, that is part of that president. But how it's actually calculated, yeah, it's completely outside of the political sphere. But I guess now it is not. It is politicized again. So they should give us at least a decent raise. They should be ashamed of themselves. Yes, I agree 100%. Financial distress. The nation hired a criminal, and now we must deal with the fallout. Okay. Maybe we should tell her dad to quit playing the video game. Sarcasm. Yes, I'm sure. Yeah, she's in Tennessee, and I guess there was only 2 facilities around her area in Tennessee that also had took Medicaid and had provided dialysis. So we're gonna see many more stories like this, people getting kicked out. The work requirements, I've already talked about this. The fact that we're gonna get a lot of people, what's called bureaucratic disenrollment. This happened this last time when there was this, Medicaid unwinding after the pandemic. 69% of the people were kicked out of Medicaid. 69% of those were actually eligible, but because of the bureaucratic BS paperwork and everything, they lost their Medicaid. So, I mean, not permanently. Some people permanently. Some people just say, well, I guess I'm just denied. I don't have, so I guess I just won't go to the hospital. I'll go to the emergency room, which is the most expensive, healthcare we can provide as a country. But family is going to have to take care of family. It's coming. We will be seeing people having to leave work to help aging or sick family members. Yeah, and that's going to bring down the employment as well, right? Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, how can the president say, "Oh, the numbers, I don't agree with the numbers. I think we had a lot more, jobs, yada yada yada." But then they fired Elon Musk, and Doge fired a whole bunch of federal employees throughout the country. AI is, a lot of employers are, we're going to hire assistants and, entry-level people, and they're like, oh, AI can just do it for free. I'm just going to use AI. Tariffs, companies are, wondering about, what tariffs are going to be in effect next month or next week. So they're not hiring people because there's no stability in the economy. I mean, you gotta, I mean, I always try to be fair. President Trump, his timing is terrible in a couple of respects. When he became president the first time, almost immediately, pandemic. First time since what, 1912, the Spanish flu. Yeah. So the pandemic, the first election, his first term, and now this term, another revolution probably that hasn't happened since the industrial revolution. I think it's going to be more than, just computers. With computers, at least, you could still, hire people to do stuff, but AI, this is going to be a big one that a lot of people lose employment from. Yeah, that's, so and for him to not realize that, okay, yeah, you can't fire a whole bunch of people and then AI and then tariffs, uncertainty and stuff and expect a rosy, jobs report. So it just doesn't make sense. So breaking news, grandma and grandpa are moving in with us. Yes, that's unfortunate. And this is why Social Security was invented in the first place in 1935. It was copied after the German system, and FDR passed it. And it's amazing that it passed. Socialism, Social Security, communism, yada, yada, yada. It was amazing that it actually passed. The only reason it did is because we were in the midst of a Great Depression. And then before the Great Depression, little history lesson there. In the old days, I tell my students all the time when I talk about American history like this, in the old days, parents took care of their kids when they were young. And then when the parents got old, the kids returned the favor, right? That's how it worked for, thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, or whatever the case may be. But then you hit a Great Depression, and the kids are barely able to, take care of themselves and their kids. So parents are like, hey, you've got your own life. You're barely, you lost your job. You're barely able to feed your own family and stuff. Don't worry about us. We'll go ahead and, starve, eat the bark off a tree, whatever the case may be. And that was the Great Depression. And we said, hey, we can do better as a country. What kind of things do we have out there? Oh, Germany's got this great system. Social Security, other countries had it as well. Germany is kind of one of the first ones that really had it. And we kind of borrowed it. That's why we come up with the 65 is the retirement age, because that's what it was basically at that time in Germany. But yeah, that's how Social Security started in the first time, because kids were just not able to take care of the parents. And I think we're in the same situation now. There's a lot of people out there, kids out there, younger people, 20, 30, 40 years old, that are barely, paying for their own monthly thing. And to have them now take care of their parents, elderly parents, it's gonna be tough. So if I put in a start Social Security November or December, will it be 63 November 9th? But don't get a check until January 2026. Can I still make the yearly income in 2026? Okay, so yeah, if you start your benefits, let's say December, you'll get your first check in January, and you'll get your first check on the second Wednesday of the month, because if that was your birthday, November 9th, then you were born the first 10 days of the month, so you get your check on the second Wednesday of the month in January. You get the December check in January. And then, yes, for next year, you have to stay under the annual earnings limit, which this year is the $23,400, but next year, not sure what it's going to be, probably $25,000 or something per year. So what I see is many teenagers who don't want a job. One didn't want a fast food job because it was beneath him, so now you have seniors filling a job that the team should take. Yeah, there are some, it's always some people out there. It's always reach out to your politicians when that's not the answer, because they can't do anything. Well, actually, they can do something. They just don't want to, because I think there's just not enough people reaching out to them. And there's a lot of people that we've got essentially two groups in this country, two major groups. You've got Group A, who want to help out 100 people with knowing very well that out of that 100 people, there might be one or two people that are, okay, I really don't want the help to go to those people because I think they're scammy. I don't think they deserve it, whatever the case may be. But in order to help the other 99 people, this is the policy we need to implement. And sure, one or two people are going to also be, get benefit from that. But it's a good policy. It works for 99% of the people. Let's go ahead and do it. And you've got another group who says, oh, I don't think this person should get it. So let's just burn the whole thing down. This is kind of the big, beautiful bill. And it's like, okay, that one young person, 26-year-old, playing video games, we need to focus on that person. So we need to cut $1 trillion. Yeah, that doesn't cost $1 trillion to support those video game playing kids. So that, close to $1 trillion is being cut off. And this is the result. So burn the whole thing down in order to get that one person. And then usually it's that one person, someone somewhere that doesn't look like me, that has it better than me, we'll get that person. And I'll feel better about myself. It won't improve my condition because actually I'm part of that, these people, they're part of that. They will find out, that they were part of that 100 people and it's going to affect them. But at least they got that one person that they don't like, that doesn't look like them. So it's a crazy time in society. So dogs rule. Sadly, they change our SNAP constantly. One day they say you need it and deserve more. Next month, you're down a couple of $100. Yeah, SNAP benefits are based on your income, any type of income. They do recertifications on a regular basis. So if you got any other income from any other places, then yeah, they definitely adjust it. But if they adjust it incorrectly, if they do, this is what's going to happen a lot, because all of these changes, all of these cuts nationwide to Medicaid, to food stamps, to electrical assistance, all of these things, massive cuts. So it's important, if you are eligible that and you apply, you have to make sure your paperwork is perfect, because if it ain't, then you just might be denied. And that's not into it. That's half the battle. Then the other half of the battle is making sure your local social services, family welfare, Medicaid office, food stamp office, whatever the case may be, is able to do their part of the job, is to actually process your application and process it timely and accurately. And that's going to be an issue because at the same time, they're cutting staff from all these offices. That's what we're seeing at Social Security, at a 50-year low in terms of staffing. So, but our community is coming up with a solution to that. So make sure you subscribe and like and stuff like that. And hopefully I'm going to be talking to my computer guy today. And hopefully we can get this out by the end of the month. So it's a big project. So if you want to support Chapter, they support us. They support all the good stuff we're doing here. In my description, I've got a link to Amazon affiliates. If you're going to buy something on Amazon, just go ahead and buy something on there, and they give us a couple of pennies every time you buy something. So, hey, every little bit helps. We appreciate it. This is a two-man operation, me and my son. So I just applied for Medicare on August 1st for November. Hopefully it goes without a hitch, as it did it all online. Yeah, hopefully it did. And a lot of people, if you're, so November, you should be good. Yeah, you applied ahead of time. So November, everything should go good. Remember, now you have to figure out what you're going to do in terms of all of the gaps of original Medicare. Original Medicare has a lot of gaps. The big one is this co-insurance of Part B. If you get a $100,000 Band-Aid from your doctor, that means you have to pay $20,000 co-insurance. So that's why people either get a Medicare supplement, which is always the ones I recommend looking into first, a Plan N or a Plan G. But if it's not for you, then the other option is a Medicare Advantage plan. So you can reach out to Chapter, 100% free. They can help you find a plan in your particular area. Tammy, Mom and I live together. We help take care of each other. Mom has dementia, terrible. And oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, that's I used to have, he was a arthritis doctor, and his wife got dementia, and he had to take a break sometimes. So he used to come to my university class and just kind of hang out and take classes. And that's one of the things I recommend, a free thing to kind of, if you're a senior out there, looking for something to do that doesn't cost any money, reach out to your local community college, your university, and, look at some of the classes that are being offered. If you like Shakespeare, everybody likes, come on, you like Shakespeare, right? Or you like, Mark Twain, or you like engineering or something like that. You just see some class that you're interested in. call up the professor and say, hey, I'm looking for something to do. I've always liked that subject. Can I just kind of come and hang out in your class? I don't want to take any tests. You don't have to grade my tests or anything, but I just want to hang out in the test. I won't even ask any questions or anything. And 99% of the time they'll say yes. And I let people join my classes all the time. I always wanted them to ask questions. They always ask the best questions. So it's so hard to take care of yourselves nowadays. Sadly, it's very hard to do the right by our parents. I'll keep praying. Yes, that is a fact. Take and Took, what's up? How are we doing today? Just like we based our Social Security and Medicare systems on programs already working well in Germany at the time, we should heed the warnings of Germany about our current politics and vote. Yeah, there is interesting things. And this happened in kind of Argentina, where the political leader of Argentina said, all of these terrible, let me get this out of here. All of the terrible stats that were coming out of their their version of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And so they just made stuff up. And we see what happened in Argentina. And also countries, loan money to other countries, and they buy bonds and treasury bills and all this kind of stuff. But they do that based on the numbers, the statistics, the metrics from those particular countries. Just like when you buy a stock in, Apple or Ford or whatever the case may be, you look at the numbers, right, to see if it's a good investment. But if you can't trust those numbers, you're not going to do it. So I think this is going to have ripple effects throughout the economy because, we're just going to have fake numbers. Yeah. I'm on a waiver with UH. On 31st, that coverage ends. I have to pick another insurance company from Ohio. Yeah. So you can, find someone locally to help you out, someone that you know and trust, or you can reach out to Chapter. They help throughout the country, all 50 states. Beck, proud to be Group A. Yes. And they say, that's there's a famous book that happened that was written a few years ago, What's Wrong with Kansas? And I kind of disagree with it a little bit. They say, they say, well, it's in your best interest to do this, that, and the other. And Group A, quite often, it's not in your best interest to be in Group A. Because you're like, oh, okay, I want to take care of, the most vulnerable. And I think, we should, pay a little bit more taxes now to give people health care rather than paying a whole bunch more in the future when they just have to go to the emergency room and stuff like that. So you're kind of voting against your own interests a little bit, but financial interests. But in terms of your moral interests, your ability to sleep at night, I think it definitely pays off. So I am a proud member of Part A as well. So the problem is the power of the president is not being controlled. This is a problem. When the Congress can't do anything, we're going in the wrong direction. Yes, yeah, that's the issue with primaries, that the most extreme are usually get the nod. I'm turning 64 in November and have a full-time job. Do I need to apply for Social Security now? Not if you don't want to. Yeah, if you have a full-time job and you're making over the annual earnings limit, the $23,400, then you're good. If you don't want you to start your benefits now, it's completely up to you. Nobody can tell you, when you should start your benefits. It's unless they ask you a bunch of questions. And since I went against my own philosophy that nobody should talk about COLA until October, this is kind of a weird situation. The first time we've had this since the 1920s or so. So that's why I started talking about COLA today. But you can go on to my website, the mygovexpert.com, and click on the button that says when to start. And I've got a nice free calculator there that you can check out. You put in your month, day, year, your PIA, which you can get from online My Social Security, and it calculates your benefits in the future, how much you will receive at 63, 64, 65, 67, whatever the case may be. And you ask yourself some questions and about when you want to apply. But it's a 100% personal decision based on all your situation. But it sounds like if you're working full time, if it depends how much you make. If you make under $23,400, then you might want to start your benefits. But if you make substantially over that, then they're going to hold back $1 for every $2 you go over. So it might not be a good idea to start benefits. In terms of Medicare, you're going to be 65 next year. If you have health insurance from work, current work, yours or your spouse's, and your employer has 20 or more employees, then you don't have to sign up for Medicare either. So if you continue to work and until you're 70 years old, then you just sign up for Medicare Part B at 70 years old. And there's no penalty whatsoever. So somehow my daughter's SSI was turned back on without her approval. It is lowering my food benefit. She has an appointment to see who turned it on since 2019. Yeah. It depends on your state. Sometimes if there is a food stamp type situation that she's receiving, sometimes they require you to file for any other benefits you're eligible for. So if they find out that you're eligible for SSI and you're not just taking it so you can get more money from the state in terms of food stamps, they might frown on that. So that anytime you receive a needs-based program like that, they mandate that you apply and receive all the benefits you're eligible for. But yeah, give them a call and find out what's going on. So, yep, Medicaid residents will be looking for a new home. Yes. So the Congress, the politicians that passed the big beautiful bill, they snuck in a little, cheats in there in sense of, okay, we're not going to make people really, really hurt based on this until after the election, until these people, put us back into office, and then we'll bring on the pain. But private companies, they can see the writing on the wall. They can see what's coming. So they're starting to make moves now. States, they have to balance their budget. It's in their constitutions, most of them. They have to balance their budget, and they devise a budget, their state budget, about a year, 2 years before. So they're going to start taking action before this. So this is, we're going to see a lot more hurt going forward. So the COLA for 2026 is projected to be 2.6 to 2.7. Yeah, again, that projection means nothing. That's only on the first quarter or the first 2 quarters. It's not over. The final calculations aren't done until September. This is what I say every year. But now somebody's thumb is on the scale, so we're not exactly sure. So that was the projections yesterday, So anyway, I'm already over 15K in medical debt, even though Medicare covered the surgery. I may default and just get the benefits card. Yeah. Medical debt is just unbelievable. Harvard has free online classes. Yep, a lot of good free online type of stuff. Yeah, absolutely. So how do I go about it? Do I have to sign up for Medicare Part A? Or Medicare Part A, if you're currently receiving Social Security benefits, they automatically start your A and B once you're eligible, usually 65 years old. If you have health insurance from current work, yours or your spouse's, 20 more employees, then you can refuse Part B. But if you're currently receiving benefits, you can't refuse Part A. If you're not receiving benefits and you want to sign up for Part A, which some people do, even though they have health insurance from work, then you actually have to apply for it. So you just apply for A and you say, I just want A. I don't want B. I don't want B. I don't want D. I don't want my Medicare, or excuse me, my Social Security money to be turned on. I just want A, that's all. The reason some people do that is because their private health insurance plan that they have, the deductibles are higher than Medicare Part A. So they say, hey, since Medicare Part A is 0 premium anyway, and it's the deductibles are smaller, I'll just go ahead and get Part A too. So yeah, a lot of people do that. So that's actually a good option depending on your particular situation. All right, I've got one question, one remark, one request. So let's see what this young man here has to say.
Hi, Mr. Ed. This is Sajid Aziz from Brooklyn, New York. My question is about Medicare. I enroll in Medicare. I have a question. If I leave USA and go to any other country, can I stop my Medicare? And if I do, what happens if I come back?
Okay, so yes, anybody can stop Medicare Not A. If you're currently receiving Social Security benefits, you have to keep A. For B, yeah, anybody can stop Part B. The repercussions are if you go out of the country and you don't have creditable coverage. Some national health insurance in other countries count as creditable coverage. It's best to reach out to your consulate or your embassy or the federal benefits unit in that particular region to find out if your particular country's healthcare counts as creditable coverage. But if it doesn't, and you stay in that country forever, then, definitely stop B, since you're never coming back. But if you eventually come back and you don't have creditable coverage, then you're going to be charged a penalty, 10% for every 12 months you did not have Part B. And you can only sign up during the general enrollment period, the Medicare general enrollment period, which is January, February, and March. So you sign up in January, your Medicare Part B will start February 1st with 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100% penalty, however many months you were, or how many years you were out of the country. So definitely take that into consideration. All right, I've just got one more. So if you got a question or anything like that, a comment, you disagree with something I said, make sure you go onto my website, click on the bottom left, record a couple of minutes of video. I had like 2 or 3 other videos in the last couple of days that people had questions, I think, but I couldn't hear them. Your audio was off. So if you are looking to hear your question answered today, those 3 or 4 people, I couldn't hear your question. So make sure you turn on your audio. When you record it, it says, hey, would you like to check to see if it's good before you send it? Make sure you check to make sure the audio is working before you send it. So it's really easy to send.
Hi, Dr. Weir. First of all, thank you for all that you do. I happily discovered your channel about 2 months ago. I wish I discovered it sooner. I've been disabled for a couple of years. Obviously, all the changes impending doom that's coming to Social Security, there's a lot of fret, fear, and uncertainty from those of us affected by it. You have many sources of information on your website, and I was just wondering, it's an oddball question. Is your website available in dark mode? Amongst my many ailments, I am vision impaired, I'm blind in one eye, and I have 3 different conditions that make me unable to see very well in the other eye. And reading off of that bright white background is just a big blinding light, and I can't read anything on your site. I can go on my computer and zoom at 500%, but even that is a struggle.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that information. Yeah, it's a brand new website, and people come in, send me emails and text and my YouTube comments and stuff like that. Hey, I went into your website, but it was blocked because it was suspicious. Yes, because it's just such a new website. Any type of really new websites are usually kind of blocked like that because it's so new. But good. Thank you. I will definitely, I'm going to have a meeting with my computer guy today. And I will definitely talk to him about getting that set up. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, it is. I tried to make it as kind of bright as possible for the people that, kind of make it nice and light and airy and stuff like that. But, people that have your condition, I'm sure it's not very good. So I will definitely work on that. Thank you so much for that recommendation. I appreciate it. How can I find a caseworker to help sign up for SSDI? Social Security, they are your caseworker, Social Security employee. So for SSDI, don't wait for a caseworker, because every day you wait, if this is August 3rd, 2025, if you were thinking about this last week, you just lost a month of benefits possibly. So every month you wait, you're losing money. So contact Social Security, get what's called a protective filing. So as soon as you contact Social Security, you're protected for that particular month. Don't wait. You can file online, ssa.gov. You can file online. You can set up an appointment, an in-office appointment, a phone appointment, whatever the case may be. Make sure you watch my video on disability. Check out my website. It gives you a whole bunch of question answer type thing about, filing for disability. But do it as soon as possible. Soon as possible. Socialism for corporations, but capitalism for the poor. Yes, that is a fact. All the buyouts and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's socialism for this, capitalism for us. That is a fact. I heard Medicare was going up $206 for 2026. Yeah, I've seen, numbers as well. And I think, there is actually a hold harmless provision that hasn't happened very often. It's if the Medicare premium goes up to such a high rate, but the COLA doesn't compensate for it, then what can happen is Social Security Congress can say, okay, your COLA, your Medicare Part B went up $10, but your because of the COLA, your money only went up $5. So they can, it's a kind of a hold harmless type thing to where it says, okay, we'll give you a break on that $5. So, but that still doesn't help you at all because you're just basically in the same exact place as you were this year, and prices are going to go up next year. So, I have no hate towards criminals and rather value a critical approach instead of criminal behavior. Yeah, you have to focus on it. You just can't, throw a wide net and say, well, I'll hurt these 100 people but I might get the one I really don't like. So, yeah, that's not a good way to do it. Such as, did you know sex offenders have higher blood pressure? Okay, all righty. About the cuts in the big beautiful bill, the GOP Congress, okay. Happens all the time. Dems do the spending, the GOP does the spending cuts. Yeah. Big beautiful bill at 1:30 a.m. behind our backs. It's the king's plan. He has to get rid of, yeah. All right, let's see if we can get some Social Security questions here. I applied for my Social Security at 62, and I am now 65, but still working. But recently they sent me a letter that I won't be getting my Social Security this month because I made more than $23,500. Yeah, yep. So they're going to be holding $1 for every $2 you go over. So if you are in fact going to be working over the $23,400, then if you're going to be, $10,000 over, then you're going to owe Social Security $5,000 of the benefits. If you reduce your work or stop working or something like that, make sure you reach out to Social Security and do a work report and say, yeah, I've been working that much, but I'm going to slow down. I'm going to make sure I'm under the 23,400, and they will make the adjustments and you'll get your check. So the cuts in the big beautiful bill made the law to start until after the 2026 election. So people do not take that into consideration when voting for a new Congress. That is a fact. Yeah, they're sneaky like that, aren't they? But people are already being hurt, obviously. Those elderly people playing in Smash Brothers, Super Mario Smash Brothers in their kids' garage. So I'd call it a regime if the behavior escalates. Will I get more money if I cancel all my medical? I don't go to the doctor anyway because I can't afford it. Yeah, if you cancel your Part B premium and your Part D and stuff like that, yeah, you'll get more money. But until you actually have to go to the hospital or you fall or someone does something stupid and runs into you or something like that. So, Mr. Ed cracked me up. A horse is a horse, of course, of course. Yes. That's the only reason I got my PhD. I always tell people that the only reason I got my PhD is was people can no longer call me Mr. Ed. So I don't think anyone wants to live in a regime. Yes. Voting for a new Congress may stop the BBB Medicaid cuts before they start. That's going to be a tough one. That one's going to be a tough one. But I think, hey, I think we should try. So I took care of my grandma for 16 years. I worked 2. It was a family thing. Then I took care of my mom for 5 years who had cancer. I pray a lot. I do not see my children taking care of me. Yeah, some people can do it. And there is, I forgot to mention earlier, respite care. It's not provided by Social Security. It's usually kind of counties and states that if you're taking care of someone like that, you need a break sometime. So reach out to your county or city or state or whatever, they say, hey, do you have this program that, kind of you can send in a nurse or a nurse practitioner or whoever to watch my parent for the afternoon so I can go see a movie and, decompress or whatever the case may be. It's a lifeline. So I don't know, Bonnie, if you ever use that, please give us if anybody's ever used that, please let us know. So let's see, get some actual questions here. Elizabeth, were you nice to your children and when they were small? Because that's what happens to most of the time when they grow up older, they don't want to take care of you. Yeah, but it's also, it's all financial. If they've got their own families and they're barely surviving themselves, doesn't matter how awesome you were. Yeah, if they can't do it, they just can't do it. Will our COLA be for 2026? How can I increase my money for Social Security? It's hard to make ends meet. Yeah, number one is to make sure your Social Security check is correct. How do you do that? Make sure you go into ssa.gov, set up that My Social Security account, and make sure your earnings record is correct. Make sure everything you paid into Social Security is reflected there, because that's how much you're gonna, that's how they calculate your benefits. The other way is to make sure you're getting the correct benefits. Are you eligible for any spouse benefits, divorce spouse benefits, surviving spouse benefits, independently entitled divorce spouse benefits, disability, SSI, Medicaid? So that's why I put all that stuff, and that's why I do these videos on a daily basis to make sure everybody's getting what they're getting. I can like him and instruct him how to do any browser and how to make it or dark. Oh, okay. Yeah. I always use dark mode. The light hurts my eyes too. Is that, yeah, I'm not very good at computers and stuff, so that's why I have my son help me out on that stuff. Is that a thing you can automatically do, or do we have to program it on this side? And so, yeah. If you file for Social Security in August and have worked all year, can they withhold your Social Security retirement from making more than $23,400? No. They don't care how much you made before you start your Social Security benefits. You can make $1 billion. If you're going to start your benefits this month in August, you can make $1 billion from January to July. They don't care. They only care about when you start receiving your Social Security benefits. So if you start receiving your benefits in August, they're going to say, hey, did you make over $23,400? And you go, yep, I made $1 billion. Wow, good on you. Okay, what about starting this month, August? Are you going to make over $1,950? And if you say, no, I just stopped making that $1 billion last month. I stopped working, or I'm going to stay under $1,950 for the rest of the year. And then they say, okay, all right, we'll start your benefits this month and there'll be nothing withheld. You're all good. At first, I made payment arrangement for $200 a month, but it was only for a while. Then they stop it at all. And if are we talking about an overpayment here? If you made an arrangement with Social Security and they accept it, then that should be it. I know when Doge came in, I just did a video about, people getting their benefits cut by 50%. And I kind of straightened social media out about that. But if you made a deal, how it was before Doge and Elon Musk came in, then they automatically withheld 10% until you made a deal. And if you made a deal for $5, usually $10 a month is the least, but extenuating circumstances. So you can do 10% or $5 or $10, $100, $200, depending on your particular situation over 60 months. And then when Doge came in there, said, hey, we're going to automatically by default hold back 100%. And then we protested and they switched it to 50%. But if you've made a deal, they shouldn't be switching it like that. So yeah, I would reach out to them and say, hey, wait a second, we made a deal for $200 a month. Why did you increase it? So. Is it true that SSI is going to be reduced by 33% in 2033 because there is not enough funding? SSI, no. SSI is a completely different program. You're confusing, everybody does. SSI is Supplemental Security Income. That is the needs-based program Social Security administers. You mean Social Security. And yes, unfortunately. So because our politicians, and we failed to make our politicians do anything for the past 40 years. We knew this was coming for 40 years, but we failed to do anything. They failed to do anything. And yes, in 89 more checks, it was 90 last month. Now it's 89 this month. 89 more checks, you're going to get 100%. And then starting January 2033 or sooner, then you're going to get a 23% cut. Everybody. It's no grandfathered in. Oh, I'm already receiving Social Security, so they won't. No, that's not how the law is written. Everybody gets a cut. So you'll still get, 77%. But if you can live on that remainder, then I guess you're good. But most people can't. Most people can't, unfortunately. So, yeah, we've had 40 years to fix it, but how can the Social Security Administration put you on to Medicare without you signing up and not even 1 year on DAC benefits and saying Part A and Part B to pay $0 as of December? Okay, if you're on DAC benefits, disabled adult child benefits, that means you're on SSDI. And after 24 months, 2 years, you're automatically signed up for Part A and Part B. You can refuse Part B and save yourself the $185 if you have other health insurance. But the Part A you have to keep. It's zero premium anyway. But yeah, they automatically sign you up for that. But you can refuse Part B. Unless, you're receiving Medicaid or something like that, then, your state doesn't usually allow you to refuse Part B. And if you're having a hard time paying Part B, then a lot of states pay for people's Part B, the $185. It's called the Medicare Savings Program. And unfortunately, a lot of people are going to lose that Medicare Savings Program as part of this big, beautiful bill. So let's see what else we are. Marie, can I get Social Security back paid for being the sole caregiver of my adult disabled son? Husband passed away 2023. You're probably talking about surviving child in care benefits that you didn't know about. Surviving child in care benefits, that you were taking care of your adult disabled son. Hopefully you're getting those benefits now. So basically what it is, if you're essentially not working or, working at a reduced rate under the 23,400 because you're taking care of someone that has retirement, disability, or deceased, then yes, you can file for what's surviving child in care benefits. But back pay on that, it really depends whether you were protected at that time, whether they knew back in 2023 or whatever the case may be, you were entitled at that time, eligible for those benefits, and somehow the ball was dropped, then I would definitely fight for it. But if you just didn't know about it, you can actually argue it there. So if you're the one that actually filed for the disabled adult child benefits, someone at that time should have said, okay, the child and care benefit should also be there. So you might be able to make that argument and get that back pay as well. So it doesn't hurt to try. Anything with the government, doesn't matter who it is, state, local, federal government, whatever. If you disagree with a decision they make, please, please, please appeal. And you can go in terms of Social Security, you can go onto my website and click on the more there and click on appeals. And let me get rid of this here. And then you can go down there and it has the first level of appeal, which is a request for reconsideration. And the form is right there. You just click that. Second level, third level, fourth level. So you can definitely check that out. So, all right, we are over an hour and we're out of time. I will be back again tomorrow. I'll pick another topic to talk about, and then I'll answer a whole bunch of questions for the rest of the day, for the rest of the hour.